Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast. I'm back for the second time today on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, sponsored by GamblersWorld.com and GamblersWorld.net, where you'll find 10 of the best handicappers anywhere you'll find in the country, with the exception we don't have Doug Upstone on the site because of his contractual agreements with Doc Sports, and that's understandable, but Doug's not going anywhere. He's going to be with us until he doesn't want to be. How's that? and we don't expect him to jeopardize his situation over at Doc's because he's quite successful there. So it all works. There's enough money to go around, Dougie, right?
That exactly correct, Ross, on that one. And yes, I would love to be able to do that, but hey, you know what? We all have to make choices in life. I made that choice to go that direction, and so it's worked out for me overall. Just like like everybody watching the videos, you've done things that work out for yourself. You do the best that you can for yourself. So yes, that's where we're at. And hey, you know what? I'm glad to be back. It's been 2 weeks basically, I think, or just about 2 weeks since I was last on. And so the Florida Keys was very nice.
Were you in Key West?
I'm going to say that.
Key West, you were at?
I went down to Key West as well. Went through the Keys all the way through, stayed a couple different places, and then went to and had Miami as well. And really, I'd never been obviously to either one. And the Keys were good, but Miami to me was better. That's just my opinion on that, and my wife's opinion as well.
Well, and it all depends on where you go in Miami. Being a resident of South Florida, I could tell you that with the utmost certainty. I mean, South Beach is a beautiful area. I don't know if you guys visited there with.
Oh yes, we were in Coconut Grove, as a matter of fact.
Doug, you gotta wear sunglasses there though, not just because of the sun. Because if you're with your wife, you don't want to be caught looking around.
Right. There's plenty of that to see, and what else? Well, yeah, there was a lot of interesting things.
I'll tell you, Key West. You know, I always said about Key West, because I've been there on several occasions. Obviously, living down in that neck of the woods for about 7 years, is there's still people who went on vacation like yourself to Key West back in the '60s, and they never left.
Right? Absolutely, no, and so it just because I don't do some of the activities that other people do when they go down there, it wasn't quite as interesting for me from that standpoint. But it's still a wonderful place. It's very, very interesting. All of that. And it's just the one thing though that was true is, especially when we got home, a lot more laundry to do, Ross, because you have to change clothes like 3 times a day.
Get the sand out of your hair, get the salt out of your hair from the ocean, all that kind of good stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, enough of that. Folks, once in a while we have to talk about our personal life so you can make a connection with us. And that's what we're doing right now. But we're going to move on. We got 2 Major League Baseball games to discuss for Tuesday, July the 18th. If you were with me earlier with Chip Chirimbus, we touched upon 2 games that are being played today. And we're going to be doing these more than 24 hours in advance for tomorrow. So keep that in mind when we give you the lines. They are subject to change depending on when you view that video. Before we get going, I just want to remind everybody, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, take a second to do so. Costs you absolutely nothing. Hit that WC button there in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, which stands for Winner's Circle, and that will subscribe you to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so. No charge, no strings attached, folks. Just privy to a lot of great handicappers on this channel. Not only myself and Doug Upstone, Chip Chirimbus, Jesse Schul, Craig Trapp, Sean Higgs. Sean will kill me because I mistake his name for that all the time. And then we're going to be having Kyle Hunter on, hopefully with us on Thursday, me and Doug. And we're going to make that a regular trio every Thursday afternoon. Doug and Kyle have a history of working together and a good relationship. So that'll work well, I think. And then also Jeff Keim from Oskiam Sports. So, a lot of good things coming up in the near future. And check out our roster over at gamblersworld.net, folks. Several packages up right now. Best thing is we guarantee all packages 30 days or less. That includes daily packages, whether it be single game or multi-game. If you don't win, you don't make a profit according to our grading system. we will credit your account the exact amount of your purchase price. You could use that any time you wish and choose any handicapper you wish. So if by chance you bought something from me and I didn't make you a profit, you're not married to me. You can go take your credit money and get it from one of the other guys on the site. Hopefully when you buy from me, you're not going to lose, but I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. Okay. Anyway, Doug, sports betting subjects maybe that you want to touch upon, if any?
Yes. Well, I'll just, and I'm not going to take a lot of time doing this, but what a wild weekend for baseball coming back.
Yeah. Well,
okay. I mean, so I'll just run down a couple, for me at least, a couple of the highlights and lowlights. You start with the Cincinnati Reds, who were basically the hottest team, or other than Atlanta, was the hottest team in baseball. They faced Milwaukee. Milwaukee's had a great history of beating them in Cincinnati. That did not stop. A complete sweep by the Brewers, who weren't playing particularly well coming into the series. Cincinnati, offense been red hot. They scored 3 runs, in the entire series, shut out twice. That was crazy. The Atlanta Braves, 27-5 coming in, win game 1, 9-0. Okay, it was one of my top plays on the run line on Friday night. Then they lose the next 2 days to the White Sox, Ross.
Yeah,
I mean, that was crazy. And then, then there's the one of the things relating to you, the Angels and Houston.
You had to bring that up. I'm already scarred as it is. Go ahead.
Okay,
I'll let you explain it.
You have a partner, in this one. So I was on the exact same side, and Houston, basically what happened, for those that did not know, Houston had leads of 3-0, 9-3, and 12-9 in extra innings. The only time the Angels had a lead was after a throwing error on the last play of the game in the bottom of I believe it was the 11th inning. Yeah. They win 13-12, in that game. Yeah. A devastating loss for Ross's customers, for my customers, as well as ourselves. And then yesterday, one last one, the Yankees up 3-1.
Another scarring me again.
And up 7-5. And then the
2-run lead in extra innings.
2-run lead in extra innings, and I had him on the run line. I don't know if you did.
I had him on the run line, yes, sir.
Had him on the run line. Yankees bullpen was number 1 going in baseball going into yesterday. They gave up 7 runs, and one of the one that made it 7-7 in the bottom of the 11th, first home run that Nick Ramirez had given up this year. 22 innings, I think it was. Yeah. And then the home run that won the game was the first by I think it's Trejo for San Diego, his first home run of the season.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
Amazing, Ross. And
amazing. I mean, you think about, and not to cry spilled milk, but that pitching matchup to start with, you had Garrett Cole going against Chase Anderson. And Chase Anderson's a guy that Doug touched upon last week, but it's worth repeating. Going into that game, he had an 18.33 ERA over his last 4 starts. Cole, I mean, and the Yankees bullpen, like he just alluded to, they've been, if not the best, near the top all year long in terms of ERA and every other statistic you could attribute to the bullpen. Really, they haven't pitched well as a staff over the last 7-8 games or so, but yesterday was no excuse against a team like Colorado. And that game, a Houston game, Doug said 9-3 lead they had at one point. It was 9-3 going into the bottom of the 7th, and they allowed the Angels to score 6 runs to tie the game. Extra innings, we take a 12-9 lead in the top of the 11th. You got to think we're golden. And then we end up losing the game 13-12. The Angels scored 13 runs, and Shohei Ohtani went 0-4. Go figure. Anyway, all right.
Yeah, one thing on the game,
sure.
For those, we'll discuss the point here, but one quick thing. Presley had Ryan Presley, their closer.
Yeah,
he comes in. He had absolutely nothing. He had pitched the night before, and I mean, he was looked like batting practice. And for those that didn't see, Ross, would you have pulled him in that ninth inning, or in the ninth inning, or I'm sorry, in the 11th inning? Would you have pulled him, or would you have?
I would probably stuck with him, Doug, only because I don't like pulling closers that you've entrusted all year long when they're having a rare bad outing. Because you got to give them the opportunity to work themselves out of a jam. I'm all for pulling the closer if he blows the lead. Yes. Okay. And if, and you got another at bat. Yeah, I get that. But I'm old school in that regard because you've extended confidence and trust in this guy all year. Even though he did pitch the night before, you have to have some sort of sample size, in my opinion, anyway, Doug, and you could retort after I'm done here. But in my opinion, there had to be some sort of sample size that they looked at and said, well, you know what? He hasn't done badly when we've asked him to go 2 days in a row, you know? So your thoughts?
Yeah, no, the only thing, you could see literally right from the start. I mean, you could also see he was sweating profusely. Okay. So it was really hot there this weekend. So that was part of it. But I mean, he just looked like he was out of gas after like 12 pitches and he was just trying to fight his way through it. And I understand from Dusty Baker's standpoint, this is your best option. But if your best option can only throw meatballs up there, I don't see why you at least don't take a shot. And if you get criticized, you do. But it's easy to leave a guy in. But he had nothing. I mean, he literally had nothing. He was throwing the ball directly over the plate. Velocity was down. He got he had a couple outs out of it. But I don't know. I would have pulled him. But I mean, I'm not. Yeah, there's no reason. They shouldn't have lost the game anyway. That's doubt. Aside from that.
No doubt. Yeah. And you know what, Doug? You're asking me my opinion just based on me not looking at anything else than us discussing a situation that I did not see. So if I witnessed it, quite frankly, I was at a wedding on Saturday, and if I kept glancing at the score, and when I saw us take a 12-9 lead in the 11th inning, I didn't pick up the phone for another 2 hours. So I thought we were golden. And then I looked and I was shocked. So if I would have been watching it like you were, my opinion may have changed, even though that's my school of thought. You know what I mean? So
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. And besides that, you probably, if you were at a wedding, you probably would have started drinking heavily at that point. So.
Oh, I already was. But
well, that's what I'm saying. Taking it further, taking it a step further.
Yeah, the only more dangerous thing would have you there, encouraging me to do so. Anyway, all right, let's talk about our games, Doug.
I'm ready.
I got one question for you before we get into our MLB picks. A big thing with this DeAndre Hopkins, he's been holding out. Where am I going to go? Kansas City, Buffalo, Tennessee, New England, and Tennessee ends up signing him. And obviously Tennessee gave him the type of money he wanted. And gave him at least a 2-year contract. My question in an AFC South, I am not convinced that Jacksonville is head and shoulders the best team in the AFC South. I think they're definitely a favorite, and you would think that if I had to make a pick today, I would certainly, I don't know if I would love it, but I would take the lesser of all evils kind of thing. But with DeAndre Hopkins going to Tennessee, does it drastically make them a better team? I know that he's a deep threat. You're going to be a better offense anytime you add a 5-time Pro Bowler. But my question is Ryan Tannehill the kind of guy who's going to be able to get Hopkins as many touches as he wants and have the activity he's had in the past?
I look at Tennessee as a team that is in decline. And that includes Ryan Tannehill, from that standpoint. Offensive line, nowhere near as good as it was 3-4 years ago. Defensively, really weak in the back end. Okay. Gave up a ton of passing yards last year. DeAndre Hopkins will improve the offense, but I'm not sure Ryan Tannehill's, first of all, going to play 17 games. I think it's unlikely that he will. Malik Willis did not look good, for the most part. Levis from Kentucky is coming in. I'm not a big fan of his. Maybe he'll turn out to be something. I don't, I think it's a non-move. Okay. Yeah. And I think it's what it is it's a good deal for Hopkins. Okay.
Yes,
that's what I think. And I think that's why he went there, because it's the best deal he could get.
Yeah. I mean, look, New England isn't a world beater, but they certainly, their chances of being a playoff team I would say, are considerably better than Tennessee. And then you declined taking less money from a Buffalo or Kansas City that's a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I mean, you turned down the defending world champion Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. You turned down Buffalo with Josh Allen. I could understand why you might have been hesitant to go to New England. A lot of players are, A, for Belichick, and B, it's not like Mac Jones. I mean, I don't dislike Mac Jones, but I don't know if anybody would consider him a top 10 quarterback in the NFL like Mahomes and Allen are. So he obviously made that choice for money. And I just forewarn you folks, you know what I mean? Don't get carried away. If they raise, you might see their win total go up a half a game, maybe even a full game in certain sports books because of this. That's purely perception. You got to really weigh and look at their depth chart and some of the things that Doug just alluded to before making that kind of abrupt decision based on just one player. All right, Doug, let's get her going. Your game is a good matchup. The Padres and the Toronto Blue Jays game will be played at the Rogers Center in Toronto on Tuesday evening, July the 18th. It'll be Joe Musgrove for the San Diego Padres, and it'll be Alek Manoah, who after a terrible start to the season was sent to the minors, and now he's back up. What's your take?
Well, I think this is really interesting on this one. On one hand, you got the Blue Jays, coming in. They just swept Arizona at home, and Arizona was one of the best road teams in baseball going into that series. Padres took game one against Philadelphia. It looked good. I think that gave them 6 out of 7 victories, as I recall, going into that one. And they were within reach of 500, basically, by the end of the weekend. Well, what did they do? They lose their next 3 games, mostly due to the bullpen blowing 2 winnable games, okay, in that instance. So I tend to lean from that standpoint, just off that, with Toronto. Now, starting pitching matchup, though, kind of tilts it maybe another way, because you got Musgrove, far more reliable, 8-2, 3.29 ERA, WHIP of 1.15. His ERA is actually lower on the road than it is at home, but his batting average is 0.39 higher on the road. So gives up some more hits where in the road grays. Alek Manoah, man, what a complete mystery this guy was the first half. He comes in this game 2-7, 5.79 ERA. Command dreadful, Ross. You know that. Yep. 42 walks, 64 innings. Giving up better than a hit an inning, something he'd never done in his career. And contrary to his past results, okay, his WHIP is 1.8. Yeah. That is at best a number 5 starter on the Oakland A's type thing. So that's horrible. Now, he pitched well in his first stint, coming off, with being sent down and kind of on the IL. Gave up 1 run, 5 hits, 8 strikeouts, no walks. But that was against a punchless Detroit team and they built a big lead, so he had nothing, okay, to really worry about. Is he trustworthy? Great question, Ross, on that one. I could look at this game and I say, with Manoah, if he gets blown out, I can't say I'd be surprised. Okay, if he's just wild again, just starts walking everybody, and Musgrove is on. But you know what? I'm still going to look at Toronto here because they're 26-18 at home. San Diego is 21-27 on the road. In the home road dichotomy of runs allowed, the Jays are at 3.7. The Friars are at 4.7. That's a significant difference. Also, both teams' bullpens recently, I'm looking at the Padres last 7 games. It's over 5, under 2 for the Blue Jays in their last 7. Cannot overlook Ross. Padres 7-17 against a bullpen that converts on 75% or more of their saves. Toronto 11-1 against National League teams this season, scoring 4.5 or more runs per game, and 13-2 at home against a National League starting pitcher whose WHIP is 1.20 or less the last 3 seasons. Give me the Blue Jays, Ross, with a little twinge of Manoah creating a little doubt right here, right now.
Yeah, well, that's why the money line is where it is. I mean, Alek Manoah looked like a future Cy Young Award winner last year. Yes. Bright young pitcher, tremendous stuff. great numbers last year. And it doesn't mean that he won't evolve into one eventually. He just hit a snag in his early career, and he was absolutely horrible. Like Doug said, he went down to the minors initially. When he went down, he got touched up down there too, and still had control issues. So I don't know how much you could trust him, and when push comes to shove, yeah, Musgrove right now is the more reliable starting pitcher. But by the same token, like Doug just alluded to, San Diego during that 3-game losing streak, a major component was their ineffectiveness in the bullpen, while Toronto has been very good in the bullpen. Folks, I can't emphasize enough, if you're going to make a full game bet, you have to account for bullpens. In this day and age of major league specialization, that certainly comes into play. And how many head-scratching situations have we seen? The Yankees had one, I think, last week with Domingo Germán, when he had gone 6 innings, only threw 72 pitches, allowed 2 hits, walked 1, and allowed no earned run, or 1 earned run was a solo home run, and they pulled him out of the game, and the bullpen blew the game. So it's one of those things. I mean, the analytics sometime, I don't have enough time in a day to look at the analytics on how a starting pitcher does the 3rd time through the order, which I'm sure for Boone to pull him in that situation came into play a little bit. But if he's just pulling a guy after 74 pitches, allowing 1 earned run, a solo home run, 2 hits, and he had like 7 strikeouts, because your bullpen, you got it organized for a 7th, 8th, and 9th inning man, that's ludicrous to me. I think the only one he allows a lot more leeway in that way is Garrett Cole. And, again, I don't want to criticize Aaron Boone because, quite frankly, I think he's done the best job he's ever done as a Yankee manager this year to even get this team 6 games over 500, because, folks, this isn't a very good team right now. I'm a lifelong Yankee fan. I'm telling you, it's not a good team right now. I don't know what they're going to do at the trade deadline. Chip was saying earlier today that he thought, well, they don't have a lot to give away. Well, they do in their farm system, okay? And that's normally what happens. If you're making a push for a playoff spot, you're not trading one of your own starters or players that are instrumental to your success for another player. And, you have to, it's almost, you're going to get a good player from a team out of contention and give up either draft choices or minor league players that are rated very highly. So we'll see what transpires. Again, baseball's a funny thing. You look for teams that are starting to surge after the break, but always keep in mind, who are the teams in the past that you've seen are willing to spend money, even if we don't think they have a realistic opportunity to be a playoff team. They do. Okay, so we'll see. Anyway, Tampa Bay and Texas, real quick. Taj Bradley for the Tampa Bay Rays. Nathan Eovaldi for the Texas Rangers. 8:05 p.m. Eastern Time start. Game will be played in Arlington again Tuesday, July the 18th. And Texas right now, according to DraftKings, is a -140 money line favorite. The total in the game is 8.5. Taj Bradley really has hit a wall of late. His last 3 starts is a 10.95 ERA, a 2.04 WHIP over that time. And more concerning, he's allowed 6 home runs and just 12 1/3 innings pitched during that course of time. And he's going to be facing a Texas team that at home this year averages 6.3 runs per game and has hit 81 home runs in 48 home games. So you got a guy who's very vulnerable to giving up the long ball against one of the best long ball hitting teams in baseball, and doesn't seem like a very good matchup to me. And especially, I just mentioned his numbers, 10.95 ERA over the last 3, not very good at all. Eovaldi, 7 home starts this year with a 2.93 ERA and an 0.91 WHIP, and he averages 6.6 innings pitched per start this year, which is important, especially when you consider, even though Texas had a good weekend with their bullpen against Cleveland, Cleveland is not the same hitting team as Tampa Bay. I still, over the last 7, their ERA is like 4.63, which isn't very good. It's not terrible, but by any stretch, I just don't. They have to make, Doug, talking about the trade deadline, they have to make a move in a bullpen. if they want to be considered a serious contender. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, their bullpen's been real good over the last 7. We've mentioned on several occasions, me and Doug, that this isn't the same type of Tampa bullpen. It's been as dominant as they were in years past. But hey, they're in a good streak right now. I have to go with Texas in this situation, but I'm going to go first 5 on this, folks, because one bullpen's real good, the other isn't. I got the better starting pitcher in this matchup. The only thing that concerns me with Eovaldi, and we could take that out of the equation, his pitch count has got up early in his last couple starts, and it's lines up with control issues. And so having said that, if we can get 5 to 6 innings out of Eovaldi and going against Taj Bradley, I believe we're going to have a heck of an opportunity for Texas to cash in on a first 5-inning bet on the money line. Your thoughts, Doug?
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Ross. Eovaldi, he's kind of actually just going back to normal. He pitched so well, probably the best of his career, so I think he's just generally going backwards a little bit from that standpoint. Not a surprise, but he's not having, let's just say, very many back-to-back poor outings.
Yeah.
And his last one, I believe, wasn't all that great from that standpoint. So I think he's, at home, I think he'll be due for a good outing, even though it is against Tampa Bay. And you're right about Bradley just not getting the job done. I like your selection there, Ross.
Yeah, the thing with Eovaldi, what concerns me is like I just alluded to, is control issues, and that's what's got him into trouble, and that's what's got his pitch count up early too. Because Eovaldi's a guy that's they're going to allow him to go 7+ innings if the pitch count says it's okay. In other words, if your pitch count going into the 8th inning is somewhere in the 80s, you're going to allow a guy like Eovaldi to continue. Especially if he's got the lead. So once again,
and especially with Bruce Bochy as the manager, by the way, too.
Exactly. And there's a reason why he's been a great manager over the years. He knows when to, he's not married to just analytics. He's not married to just specialization. He looks at each game as a single entity. And that's what makes him a great manager and why he won a couple of, if not 3. 3 World Series titles with the Giants. All right, so Doug likes the Toronto Blue Jays plus 100 over the San Diego Padres. I like Texas. I don't have a first 5 line for you yet, but even if you're in the 130, between 130 and 140, any lower than that, I like it even more. Okay, so there you go. I'm not willing to go to full game on that for the reasons I specified. Doug, tell the folks what you got coming up this week. And any kind of hot streaks you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, baseball's still going well on a good streak the last 21 days, just short of 60% across the board. I said had that tough loss with the Angels. Well, actually 2 tough losses over the weekend, but hey, you know what? That's how this goes sometimes. And so, but yeah, so baseball's been good the last 21 days overall. Major League Baseball props have been exceptionally well. It's hitting 66% recently on props. That's over, I think, about a 3-week period. Yeah, in fact, it is a 3-week period also. Primarily 1 per day, but those have been very strong as well. So from a standpoint of baseball, which is the focus we're going to talk about here, it's been a good run. And so building that momentum, Ross, which I've been talking about all year and starting to really feel good going into the second half and the remainder of the season.
And my money's on you, buddy, on the second half of the season. Doug, historically, one of the best Major League Baseball handicappers in the country. And if you don't think so, he can back it up with some of the awards he's won over the years at independent monitors in that regard. You could find me at gamblersworld.com or rbwins.com, my personal site. A little bit of back and forth in Major League Baseball since before the All-Star break. Yesterday, I went 1-2. I lost with that Yankee game that we just touched upon. I lost with the Cleveland Indians yesterday as a plus 125 dog, 5-2 lead going into the bottom of the 8th. And their bullpen, which is usually reliable, let me down. 1-6-5 kind of day that if I had to do it all over again today, I would make the same 3 picks. So that tells me I'm still on. It's just it's a matter of once in a while the ball doesn't bounce your way or the luck doesn't go your way, whatever way you want to term it. Anyway, folks, if you have not subscribed, like I alluded to earlier, please take a second to do so. Hit that WC button in the bottom right-hand corner of the page. If you want, hit that alerts bell as well, because you'll be notified immediately upon any of our Winner's Circle sports betting podcasts going up on our channel. And there's a like button there in the bottom of the page as well. If you would be so kind to hit that like button, it's just a small token of your appreciation for the efforts that we put in on this show to not only win with free picks, but share sports betting information that would make you a better sports bettor today than you were yesterday. Doug, we'll be back again on Thursday, hopefully with Kyle Hunter. I'm waiting confirmation on that. Kyle, one of the new handicappers over at gamblersrule.com or .net, excuse me. But he's not a new handicapper. This guy is a proven winner. Doug's worked with him in the past. Looking forward to that. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with Jesse Shule and Sean Higgs, and we'll be covering some Major League Baseball at that time as well. For Doug Upstone and Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks.